If you've been a fan of retro RPGs for a long time, then you're completely aware of the fact that the genre went totally neglected for a long span of time. Because of the emphasis on action gameplay in modern gaming, the turn-based RPGs we loved were just left by the wayside. In recent years though, games like Octopath Traveler, Live Alive, and Triangle Strategy have truly breathed new life into the genre, thanks in large part to the distinctive HD-2D visual style that they all embrace. This graphical approach offers so many possibilities, especially because there are so many great but forgotten RPGs of the past that are practically aching to be remastered in the style. Some of them only saw a limited release, others were made by lesser known developers, and some were never even translated into English. So in this video, I'm going to tell you all about the top 5 RPGs that need an HD-2D remaster now, and what makes them so special. Before I get into that though, please like the video and subscribe to my channel for more retro RPG content. The number 5 RPG that must be remade in HD-2D as soon as possible is Far East of Eden Zero, or Tengai Makyo Zero in Japan. This was a Japanese-only Super Famicom release that really stood out in 1995 because it used a special data decompression chip that allowed for far more data to be stored on the cartridge. This meant that the game featured unique sprites for every single enemy in the game, far more dialogue than typical, and even a real-time clock system where certain stores and quests would unlock only at specific times of the day. And all that stuff is really cool, but honestly, the reason why this one needs to be remade so badly is because it's such an awesome RPG at its core. It's a really cool story that takes place in feudal Japan, where a prince takes vengeance upon his kingdom by unleashing an evil demon lord after he's passed up for the throne. With his evil powers, he slays his younger brother and his reign of terror begins. You take control of Xygor, a fabled hero destined to save his land, but to do so he has to free the 6 divine beasts that have been sealed by the minions of hell. This game uses a lot of colorfully animated cutscenes that help tell the story, and these could be adapted into HD-2D for a much better experience. Personally, I would really love to see some of the game's key storyline moments unfold the same way that the developers originally envisioned. The world map, towns, and dungeons all seem perfectly suited for restyling, and could easily make use of an HD-2D graphical engine to give them more life. The game's a lot like Live Alive in that way. The soundtrack of this game is also awesome, and will stick in your head even from the first town forward. The special sound decompression chip made the song sound as great as the SNES could handle, but I know that these could be remastered as well to sound even better today. Many of the game's key elements remind me of Dragon Quest VI, and that's pretty high praise in my mind because, honestly, I think that game rules too. Far East of Eden Zero is just a great RPG classic that got so overlooked, and most English-speaking gamers never got a chance to play it, even those who loved RPGs. When I decided to make this video, I knew immediately that DragonForce belonged on this list. Originally released on the Sega Saturn, this was a groundbreaking strategy RPG that featured an overworld map much like Ogre Battle, but the battles were so different than anything else at the time. The player takes control of generals that command legions of sprites in battles, all of which move at the same time. Throughout your journey, you conquer castles, recruit new forces, and even find unique items and recruit hidden generals. There's tons of different unit types that all have their own strengths and weaknesses too, and that was the distinct part of this game. It was so fun to find out the best ones for each situation. Perhaps the most unique thing about DragonForce though was that you choose from one of 6 vying monarchs at the beginning of the game, each with a different scenario. And I loved the fact that each scenario was different. It gave you a fresh new look at the game with every playthrough, and that was something that simply not every RPG offered. There's a lot of variance here. Also, the soundtrack to this game was awesome. The hypnotic melodies that play during combat were totally unforgettable, and it's such a shame that many of the biggest RPG fans have never even heard them. The unique thing about DragonForce is that it had a limited release on a system that wasn't very popular in the first place, especially with RPG fans. In fact, lots of RPG fanatics passed on buying a Saturn in the first place, instead preferring the much more RPG-oriented PlayStation and the array of great titles it offered. As a result, DragonForce has gone completely overlooked in many circles, and it just shouldn't be that way. Remastering this game would be the perfect solution for a lot of reasons, but especially because its graphical style fits perfectly with the HD-2D aesthetic. And don't get me wrong, because Working Design's original North American release for this one was very good, but this game could be spruced up and brushed up a bit. This one is practically screaming to be played by more RPG fans, so I consider it an obvious selection. Coming in at number 3 is Terra Enigma, the one that got away. At least for North American gamers anyway. This was the final entry in what's become known as the Soul Blazer trilogy. Even though its predecessor, Illusion of Gaia, received some legitimate success, Terra Enigma never crossed the sea. However, it did get a PAL release, so European players got to play through this one and laugh at all of us North American peasants who never did. And man, were they ever lucky to do so. This is a spectacular action RPG, arguably the greatest on the entire platform. The story is deep and emotionally stimulating, the action gameplay is fun and immersive, and the graphics are really something special. Just take a look at these snow effects. This one takes the best parts of Soul Blazer and Illusion of Gaia and improves upon nearly all of them in a profound way. From the start, you take control of Ark, a rebellious youth who opens a sealed door and touches a mysterious object. The decision puts everyone into a catatonic state, and the story takes off from there. He eventually learns he must resurrect continents on the surface of the world to make things right, so much of the narrative revolves around that goal. What's nice too is that the story really avoids a lot of the evil empire tropes you'll find in games like this, and it's filled with deep moments that could even bring a tear to your eye. That's the thing that stands out about it to me the most. Sure, there are some rough spots in Terra Enigma. Bloody Mary. But it's such an amazing experience in some. I'm actually shocked that it hasn't yet been remastered because this is a huge missed opportunity. If I had to describe this game to someone in a succinct way, I would simply tell them it's full of soul. That's the missed opportunity here. I'm actually not sure who owns the rights to this IP now, but whoever does would be foolish not to explore the possibility. With rich HD-2D environments, a revived soundtrack full of amazing songs, and dungeons that seem perfectly adaptable to the style, this would be a perfect RPG to remaster today. When I think of RPG hidden gems, I immediately think of Bahamut Lagoon, the turn-based, grid-oriented Squaresoft RPG that came out in the Super Famicom's last days. Unfortunately, this one also never made it stateside, which stopped almost everyone here from even knowing about it. And man, did we ever miss out. I consider it the second most needed HD-2D RPG remaster for several reasons, but one thing that always stood out about it to me was one of the craziest twists and turns I've ever seen in an RPG is in this game. Now, if you played this one through to its conclusion, you probably know exactly what I mean. And if this one was remastered in HD-2D, I'm pretty sure you'd get a similar feeling that you may have gotten from the biggest twist in the Live Alive remaster. It's just a beautiful game with vibrant colors and fantastic animations. All the best visual elements of the SNES era can be seen here. Some may assume that if you've seen one grid-based tactical RPG, you've seen them all, but I don't think that's true when it comes to Bahamut Lagoon. And that's because Bahamut Lagoon offers an enormously fun progression system on top of all that stuff that no other RPG I know of does. Dragon development. That's right, so each group of 4 players has a dragon assigned to it, and all dragons have their own stats and abilities. Now, the dragons are only guided by artificial intelligence, but you can program them, so to speak. You can feed them, and they level up as your characters do. The dragons can even eat things like weapons and armor, and they'll transform into more powerful forms as they grow stronger. It was just so fun to cultivate your own dragon wrecking crew alongside your standard characters. Movement and map strategy is really similar in this one to games like Fire Emblem and Final Fantasy Tactics, but when you clash with other units, the gameplay transitions to a horizontal turn-based system, and this looks a lot like Final Fantasy. And I said it before, but I'm gonna say it again. The combat animations are some of the best there is from this era, and these could be made to look even better in an HD-2D age. Bahamut Lagoon was never officially localized, and it's just so darn fun. So it's such a disgrace that the game still goes unknown to such a big part of the RPG fanbase. This one needs to be remastered sooner rather than later. The number one RPG that needs an HD-2D remaster is Treasure of the Rudras, or Rudra no Hihou as it was known in Japan. Like Bahamut Lagoon, this one was released on the Super Famicom at the height of the popularity of RPGs in Japan, and it never made its way to the SNES. However, Treasure of the Rudras differs from Bahamut Lagoon in that it's more of a classic-style turn-based RPG. It honestly looks pretty similar to Final Fantasy VI in most ways, and that kind of makes sense because Treasure of the Rudras has often been compared to that game. And that's because it has an epic story and a futuristic world. In this case, though, it's in one that's been ravaged by pollution. Mankind will be destroyed in 15 days, which causes exactly the kind of stir you may expect in the world. The various characters in Treasure of the Rudras have different perspectives on how to resolve this problem, and you choose between 3 scenarios at the start, each with a different protagonist. You can complete the scenarios in any order, and even toggle between them. Different locations in the game even look differently at different points in the timeline. All these concepts were completely unique, and the story uses several ideas that really make it stand out from other RPGs. With the gifts of HD-2D, the most dramatic moments, and there are many of them, would be much more enjoyable. The other unique characteristic of Treasure of the Rudras is the game's innovative and customizable magic system. In this one, you actually create spells, known as mantra, by adding prefixes and suffixes to root words that alter the power of magic spells. This can do things like make a single target healing spell affect all allies, or simply amplify the sheer power of offensive magic. There are lots of combinations to discover and explore, and it's all up to the player to do so. Outside of that, the battle animations and sprites are as good, if not better than those in Bahamut Lagoon. And the game looks so good, it could actually be mistaken for an early Saturn or PlayStation title. Beyond this, the characters were very interesting, and you actually get to see them develop and interact with each other a lot. And the soundtrack is fantastic too. This was the last game developed in-house for the Super Famicom by Squaresoft, and that makes total sense, because it has all the hallmarks of a great RPG. As far as I see it, all RPG fans deserve to experience Treasure of the Rudras for themselves, so this one gets the top spot on my list. Now I know there's a ton of other great RPGs that desperately need remastered, and I only scratched the surface with this list. So which ones do you think I missed? Let me know in the comments below. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell for more retro gaming content. And I want to give a special shout out to my YouTube supporters and Patreon patrons. If you want early access to the videos I produce and other perks like they receive, please consider supporting the channel by becoming a Patreon patron or via the YouTube Join feature.